Hey everybody, it's Derek here. So we're talking about Palestine again today with this beautiful book. Let's get right into it. All right, everybody. So today we're talking about Going Home, written by Raja Shehadeh, subtitled A Walk Through 50 Years of Occupation. This is very, very accessible. If you're not so much interested in international law or really densely packed history, this just gives you a sense of specifically what life is like, what it has been like over the years in Ramallah, and how that's changed over the past 50 years according to Raja Shehadeh's. I would say this is kind of like a memoir. It's under 200 pages, densely packed with really interesting pictures. Like the photography in here is really neat, and he shows you a lot of the places throughout Ramallah that meant a lot to him. Raja Shehadeh has been really actively involved in this fight. I mean, he's one of the main names that come up, kind of like Ilan Pape and Arakat and Norman Finkelstein and lots of these names you hear in Palestinian literati. And he's a writer himself, although his main thing that he's known for is he was a human rights lawyer. So very well educated in the first world domain. I think he went to school in London. He has a law practice that I think he inherited from his father. What was the name of that? I can't remember the name of the law firm that he runs, but it's been really central to the Palestinian fight. So he actually co-founded the human rights organization Al-Haq, which is the Palestinian affiliate of the International Commission of Jurists. It's a really impressive organization unto its own that's worth looking into, but I believe he started it with his father and later inherited it. But this is very autobiographical. It's you're walking down the streets with Raja Shehadeh and seeing how this changed and that changed, what the encroachment of the occupation has meant for somebody who, he was really among the elites of Palestine in Ramallah. I mean, Ramallah is still, of all the places in the West Bank that retains some of its original identity, he captures that, the olive groves and the cafe culture and, the art scene and literature and all the rest of it. He talks about the avenues and the byways and how some of it still remains. There's still whispers of its former glory, but how it's been filled up with the encroachment of Israel. And something that I found especially interesting, in fact, I'm going to mention this in future videos, he refers to the continued desecration of Palestinian sovereignty, to a point where, like that other book I was reviewing the other day by Noura Erakat, how, sovereignty for Palestinians is dead letter now. It's, all you can really hope for is maybe some civil liberty progress in that regard, unless Israel has kind of sold off piece for piece, dismantled back to the pre-1967 lines, that is. Very important detail. You get some really hyper progressive leadership there. Palestinians don't hold out much hope anymore for their sovereignty. They retain what little of it they have. And Shehadeh points out what the last 50 years have looked like in those terms. And he says, Palestine was remarkably secular in a lot of ways. I mean, it wasn't, like tons of atheists running around or the LGBT. I mean, we don't even have much of that up here 50 years ago. But, it was in a democratic direction. It was a thriving, pluralistic place, especially Ramallah. I mean, this is the epicenter of so many things historically, the cafe culture and hookah. I can't remember what they call those pipes in Palestine, nargile or something. All of those sort of places where people came and talked about politics and nationalism and their place in the world independent of Islam. He says he remembers when the minarets would, broadcast their prayer times. That wasn't a regular feature in Ramallah, certainly dating back to his childhood, but he says something really interesting, this line. He says something like, where legitimate, self-respecting nationalism once thrived in Palestine, it's been replaced by religious fundamentalism. Which kind of shows you, from a first-hand perspective, how you're going to rout out extreme Islamists with bombs and oppression. Well, what's the result? you use the sledgehammer method, it doesn't work. Of course, even with all of the religious fundamentalism, it still doesn't excuse what Israel is doing, even if there was all of that beforehand. But, he shows that, like, Palestine was remarkably secular, especially Ramallah. And now there's this general sense that Muslims are trying to find atonement. You enter this sort of politics of austerity, as I've mentioned before. And religious fundamentalism, radicalism, extremism, whatever you want to call it, fills the void of what was once, a thriving sort of identity with the place and the politics thereof, and seeking self-autonomy and defining it in ever-evolving contexts. I mean, this is what society and civilization is about, isn't it? So I thought that was really well worded. In fact, I was wishing, after I was finished this, I was just devouring it, so I didn't underline it or keep that quote, but I thought, man, that's a good way to put it. I wish I had it verbatim. How religious fundamentalism will kind of fill that void of what was once otherwise respectable, political civic engagement. I would say throughout this book too, even though it's depressing, I didn't feel despondent through reading it. In fact, it was useful just to get his sort of autobiography. It stands on its own, but to walk down those streets with him and to hear how he's talked about life in Ramallah and how it's changed, it's really moved up in my books, even with all the oppression and violence. I would love to go there. I would love to see, what remains in Ramallah and the West Bank. So as I was saying, about it being kind of depressing, I would say the biggest tone that he takes in writing this book is resignation. That's he's looking over his life and he sees all the work that he's done for Palestine in terms of his legal work, and he doesn't say it's completely for naught or anything, but you can't help but look back over your life sort of in the way that Norman Finkelstein has. He's devoted his life to capturing the history of this place and fighting for their rights, and at the end of it, it seems that the Palestinian situation has gotten worse and worse and worse. And so he's got this resignation and sort of familial guilt, for how he treated his father and the way his father had conceptualized the future of Palestine. It was really well integrated with his family story and his sense of place. So I'd highly recommend it if you're looking for kind of a lighter read on the topic of Palestine. This is a really good place to start. It's loaded with great imagery and not highfalutin language. It's not legalistic. It's just almost poetic. So read it. Tell me what you thought of it. Let me know if I've convinced you to read it, or maybe you have read it and want to talk about it. I'd love to see you in the comments. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you down there. Hey everyone, I hope you liked this video. If you want more like the one you just watched, click the suggested video on this screen. Make sure you subscribe, and to connect with me on my other platforms, my handles are linked below in the description, alright? Take care, peeps. Till next time.